Hey everyone, Kerry Beck here with Life Skills Leadership Summit, and we are talking today about a topic that I know at least the moms around struggle with all the time whenever I talk about kids and attitude. It is all screen, screen, screen. So we're going to be talking about the brain and screens, and Mandee Hammond is here with us from Screen Strong. And so welcome. Thank you so much for doing this.
Yes, thank you so much for having me, Carrie.
Well, I know we've already talked a little bit a few weeks ago before we're recording this interview, but seriously, I've talked about screens and there's just so much out there. And I will just say let's do this. Before we dive into it, why don't you tell people a little bit about yourself?
Sure. So like she said, my name is Mandee Hammond. I live in Des Moines, Iowa, so I'm right in the Midwest. However, my claim to fame when talking to anybody in Texas is that I did live in 3 years in San Antonio. And so that's my,
Oh,
whenever I'm around Texans like you, Carrie, I'm like, hey, I have been in Texas and I loved it. I loved it. I was a Texan like the second week I was there. I was in.
oh,
But anyway, I find myself back in the wintry wonderland of Iowa. But I found Screen Strong back in 2020 when I was what I call a mom with a screen story. This was before I was considered any sort of expert on the topic. We had two teenagers and a child still in like going into middle school that I was very frustrated around screens. And so that's kind of what got me a good dear friend told me about Screen Strong. And I dove right in because it's all about brain science and all this. And everything started to click once I started educating myself. So I then joined in 2021 kind of on their team. And so my role on the Screen Strong team is I train our ambassadors, which we have an ambassador certification program, and I'm able to train them all to speak and to do our workshops. And then I myself am a speaker and go out and do workshops and speak to families and students about the science behind how screens are affecting the brain. So I'm married. I have 3 children. They're now almost 21, 19, and 16. So I'm kind of still in the thick of it a little bit, but we're on the tail end of things. And we really reversed how we were doing things with screens. And that's kind of our story. We took back smartphones, we took back social media, and my older kids and my youngest one are thriving now. So we have a great story, and I love to help others to know that they can do it too.
that is awesome. You look too young to have a 21-year-old. I was like,
Thank you. Well, I
like,
did
wow,
have him
she's
at 20.
21-year-old, but
Thank you.
anyway.
I did. Yep.
Well, what I wanted to say, but I wanted to let you introduce yourself is I I was on my phone, the wrong place, but seriously on Instagram there was some little video and I wish I knew who this guy was. He was all about don't give kids, I want to say 4 or 5 and under, should not even be around screens. They're, that. And then he was like, and this is what it should be from 5 to 10, and this and this. And I was just like, yes, yes, we need to get this message out because we use it as a babysitter. I personally think with especially the little kids, but
Yeah.
well, even with the big kids, hey, give them a screen, let them go play video games or do something. And, anyway, let's dive into sort of the brain. And, we want our kids to have a healthy brain. How can we go about doing this?
Well, first we need to understand how the brain works. And this was very important. And even just 5 years ago, I did not know this information. And when I did as a parent, it's like the light bulb goes on and you realize, okay, this all makes so much more sense. The battle, the conflicts, all of it. So the brain develops from the back to the front. So the back part of the brain develops first, the cerebellum. This is in charge of our, the easiest things that we learn to do. When as a child, we're swallowing, we're walking, we're crawling, we're running, all these things. And so that's why our little kids love to move around so much because that part of their brain is intact. Then the middle part of the brain, the limbic system, is what is coming into play next over, kind of their middle, late elementary into teenage years when puberty happens and all of that. And so that's why our middle schoolers and even some high schoolers are really running their life via their emotions because that part of their brain is controlling all their decisions. Well, what does not develop until age 25, so a good decade after most of us are handing our kids smartphones, is the frontal cortex or the front part of the brain. And this part of the brain is where the executive functioning that our kids need to be successful in life, that's where this lives. And if they are not given opportunities to build this part of their brain through these really important years, they are not set up well for the future. And so this is what we're seeing over the last 10 or 15 years is that these brains that have been, we say, have been experimented on, the last decade or more, decade and a half, and it's not turning out very well. We're starting to see it. And now we see on brain scans, and that's how we kind of that backs up all this brain science. We can see on brain scans now what an internet addicted brain looks like, or just, a child that's on video games a ton or social media versus a child who's not. And you see one brain that's pretty much shut down, especially this front part that they need to have intact to make good decisions. And in a child that's not addicted to these things, this part of their brain is lit up and it's working properly. So we kind of believe that we need to just train them. They should know what to do. They should know how to manage this. But the reality is brain science tells us they are not ready. And so it's our, we have to do this. We have to know the brain science and protect their brains at all cost. So that's just a little brain 101. The other thing I'll say, the other thing that I'll mention too is that activities are what shape the brain. So whatever activity your child is doing, that is what will shape their brain. It seems common sense enough, right? But you really got to think this through. What are screens replacing? So many times screens are replacing that social interaction. They're replacing learning how to cook for real or learning how to take out the trash because, and I've been there as a mom. It's like, oh, it's just easier if I just do it. They're quiet on their screen. I'm just going to make dinner. Nobody's fighting. It's great. But we're really stealing experience away from them with the screens. And so we've got to give them lots of in-person activities all the way through adolescence to build really strong pathways in their brain.
That is so good. I think of like just especially young kids, they need time for play. I think learning is play more at that time. And too often, either we give them a stack of workbooks when they turn 5 years old, and then we say, oh, this is education. Well, that's not really true. Or we put them up in front of this screen thing and they don't there's no imagination. They need to go outside and play and do things like that, is what I
Right.
would say. So,
Yes, absolutely. And the reason that they're going to choose the screen over actual play is because of what it's doing in the brain with dopamine. So that feel-good chemical that's in the brain, this is what the tech companies know they're exploiting in a child. And so I actually found this fact out not too long ago, but that reward center of our brain that keeps us going,
yeah.
God gave us dopamine in our brain on purpose so that we would continue to live our lives and enjoy our lives. But what technology does now is that it releases such unnatural amounts of dopamine, especially in an undeveloped brain. So an undeveloped brain, a child or a teenager's brain, their reward center is 7% larger than ours as an adult. So they are more susceptible to these rewards that are being offered to them. Of course, they're going to want to be on that screen. And same with educational things. And that's especially in the homeschool world, we do talk to parents a lot. And they're like, well, what about, a lot of curriculum has gone digital.
Oh,
And that's hard because the reality is no matter what, if it's giving rewards and it's been gamified, it's doing the same thing to the brain as if they were on this, silly video game over here that had no educational value. So if anytime you can choose to do something real, like an actual puzzle versus a puzzle on an iPad, that's better for their brain.
real paperback book too.
Yes, yes.
See, that was my question. I was thinking about that when you were first talking, because I mean, I do know homeschoolers, they're like, I'll just let someone else teach it. I'll sign them up for these online classes. Or when I look at schools and I look at some of my grandkids, everything is on a tablet. And so, what are your thoughts about that? Because I don't know. I've just got such mixed views about it. You want them to be educated, but I don't want them, spending their whole school days on a tablet as well.
Right. And this is probably one of the number one complaints we're getting from parents, whether, especially obviously with kids that are in school, whether private or public, is that a lot of schools have this one-on-one, every kid has their own laptop or iPad or even in kindergarten. We had a recent story, an ambassador talked to me here locally and said that she found out her middle school daughter, they were taking their iPads out for PE. They had to take their iPads to PE to
Yes.
follow what they're supposed to do with all their, reps of this and that. And I'm like, where's the teacher? So yeah. So again, it's replacing things. So unfortunately, globally, we are seeing scores plummeting in reading, math, and science. And this is all if you look at the graphs of it, it's all when kind of technology started entering the school and we were kind of sold this lie of oh, it's great. This is how it's going. And so even in the homeschool world, I do think this is infiltrated a little bit because I don't know, it's what we're all buying, it's buying into. But the reality is the more you can stay face to face in that learning, the better your child's going to be. Now, I will give this little caveat. If your child, there's two different kinds of screens. There's passive screens and interactive screens. So currently, like we're using a passive screen, we're using it to communicate. Maybe your child is using an online program that they're watching an instructor teach them. This is not going to be addictive. Okay, so there's
Yeah.
two different kinds. So of course, yes, is it going to be better if they're learning in person or learning from you? Yes, but not every parent can teach algebra, right? Or whatever it is. So sometimes our kids need to look at a video of an instructor. This is going to not be harmful. It's the gamified learning that is harmful to the brain.
Thank you for saying that. That is so true. Um, oh, you said something about that, and I was like, anyway, the thought will come back to me. So we've got the gamified, we've got actual teaching as well. Well, one of the things too is what are your thoughts and what do you talk to parents about? Because what I find is the kids are over there on the screens and mom's sitting here doing all of this as well. What are your thoughts or some things that you would suggest to families in that area?
Yes, no, that's so, so true. And we're all guilty of it as adults. And it's so funny because usually I get from a lot of adults will say, well, what about us? I can't ask my kid to do something that I'm not doing. I'm such a hypocrite, but which is true, right? We can't do that. But also, we are adults and we do have that fully developed frontal cortex. Most of the time, a lot of the time, we are using our phones differently than kids are going to use them. Okay. So here's some just suggestions if you're a parent using your phone. Number one, being intentional about your use. So having intentional times that your phone is put away and your child has your undivided attention. So if you're homeschooling them and you're sitting there teaching them, probably your phone should be put away, so it's not even a distraction. So being intentional with that. And the way you do that is continue to educate yourself on the effects on your brain, on your child's brain, because the more you have knowledge, the more power you have. You feel empowered to make these good decisions. Another fun little trick you can do that I always suggest to parents is putting your phone on grayscale. Okay. And I wish I had the exact steps, but you need to go, you can probably Google it, but you go into your settings and you change your display to grayscale and your whole phone goes black and white. And you will notice how much you don't want to be on your phone because it doesn't have that persuasive design, that the colors and the sounds and all the things. Turning off your
Hmm.
notifications.
Yes.
Yep, and giving yourself limits on social media apps, setting a 15-minute limit a day or something like that. Something to prompt you as an adult to use your executive function skills and go, okay, I've had enough. It's time to put it away. That's what our kids aren't able to do because they just don't have that part of their brain yet, but we do. So for us, it's really being that adult and saying, I've got to be intentional about this and set the example.
That is so good. I tell both my business students and my homeschool moms, I'm like, if I got notifications, especially email, this thing would just go rattling off all the time.
Yes.
It's like I do get notifications for phone calls and texts, and I
Yeah, me
have a
too.
VA that I get one from, but I don't get any social media. I mean, none of that. I don't know how people do it because I'd have red dots all over all those
I know.
apps and that would try,
It's so
and
true.
then I would get nothing done. It would be just a big waste of time. So
Yeah. So that's a
yes,
good thing. Turn off your notifications, put your phone on grayscale. I know Melanie, our founder, she tells the story when her twins were growing up. They're now in college, but she was raising them completely different than she did her oldest son, who's addicted to video games, that started the whole thing was Screen Strong. So she raised her other three completely different. And she would say that when she get home from school, she would leave her phone in the car until after supper time so that she just knew that it was there and she could focus. They'd come in, she could hear about their day, she could make them a snack, she could sit down and do homework. And I love that idea. I was like, I wish I would have known that back, then. But I thought that was a great idea too. So finding ways to be intentional and letting them see that I'm putting this away at dinner, or one more suggestion. Sorry, I've got all these
yeah,
little tips. One more would be when you do use your phone, kind of, you don't have to narrate everything you're doing, but hey, I need to use my phone real quick. I've got to return this email, or I need to check our banking account, or I'm putting in my grocery order real quick. I'll be back with you in a minute, especially if you've got younger children, to say, this is what mommy's doing right now on my phone. I'm using it as a tool and then I'm putting it away. And that teaches them that you're not just maybe sitting there scrolling. and looking at silly cat videos.
Well, oh gosh, I have two granddaughters. They are enthralled with YouTube cat videos. I'm just like,
Yes.
okay, whatever. Um, I really like that too, because one thing, like I'm sitting at my downstairs kitchen table, but I have an office upstairs where I get a lot of work done and we do all our bookkeeping. If now my phone is here right now because we were talking about it. But when I'm upstairs, actually my phone sits down at the table, and that way, even if it goes off, I do have a watch, but it is not as much of a temptation. I'm probably not as tempted as my children are, who are in their 30s, but I love that idea of putting it in the car. If you don't want to leave it in the car, even as a homeschooler, go put it under your pillow in your bedroom somewhere far away from wherever y'all are homeschooling. And then that way the temptation, especially if you're tempted. So I love that idea. So okay, we talked about some practical things. We sort of got a little bit off track, but I don't know if there anything else as far as brains and screens that you want to touch on.
I do want to touch real quick on the dopamine. We call it the
Yes.
dopamine dilemma. I want to hit that a little bit more because this is really important. It's something that you can explain to your children too. Um, so we talk about having this baseline. We all have this baseline of dopamine and what technology or what, let me define what we say are toxic screens first, because Screen Strong is not against technology. Okay. Technology is here to stay. We do use it. But our kids will have the rest of their lives to be on social media. They don't need to do that in childhood. So the three toxic screens that we define as toxic are going to be social media, video games, and pornography. Those three things are what kids are finding on iPads and doing on iPads. They are finding this on smartphones, even personal laptops, personal devices. So really keeping screens big in your home is really important. So back to the dopamine. Dopamine is I talked about this a little bit earlier, but an interactive screen is anything you're interacting with. And this is what's causing major amounts of dopamine to be released in the brain. Anything that's rewarding, giving constant rewards, constant information. And so the brain gets used to that. And what happens is that baseline of dopamine just rises, 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 just like with somebody who is addicted to drugs, just like somebody who is addicted to gambling or cigarettes or anything. You have to get just a little bit more for the brain to be happy. So our goal as parents is to keep our kids kind of in the green. We actually have a graph. I wish I had it here. We have a graph in our curriculum that shows the green, which is going to be caused by like going out in nature or spending time with a friend. These are all natural ways to get dopamine that are good, that God gave us. But as soon as we live in the world of video games and social media, we're right up there in this red zone of gambling and pornography. All of it runs in the same pathways in the brain. And I know me as a parent, I said, oh my gosh, it's like I'm giving heroin to my child. Like I would never give them heroin. I would never, oh my gosh, I'm hurting their brain. That's what clicked for me when I learned this as a parent, that empowered me to kind of take it back and say, oh no, we're hurting your brains. And I'm so sorry I didn't know I was hurting your brains. Even though you're mad at me for taking it away, you'll have plenty of time to get it back later when your brain's more developed. So as a parent, keeping that baseline and explaining to your child, hey, let's keep this at a baseline here. Let's go outside and play instead. Let's play this game together. Let's go hang out with a friend. Let's have a little piece of chocolate. Like there's little ways that you can treat your brain and have that healthy amount of dopamine. But when you live in the red and the higher you go and the longer you stay in that red, the further you fall. So it's just like think of a sugar rush or caffeine, it's going to spike your blood sugar up, it's going to spike your energy levels. And then what's going to happen? Usually we crash. And that's what's happening with the dopamine. So this is why when you take away your child's phone or you finally unplug the video game, they freak out. And we just think, oh my gosh, why is my child being so awful right now and misbehaving and disobedient? Their brain is overstimulated. I don't want to say it's not their fault, but it's not their fault. Their brain is doing that. And so we have to have a lot of compassion for them because we gave it to them and we kind of caused this. So that's kind of my thoughts on dopamine. Not my thoughts. Those are the facts on dopamine, I should say.
Yeah, I love that idea, have compassion, but also as parents, we need to take responsibility,
Yes.
that we allowed this to happen. And yeah, we may have done it out of ignorance, not really thinking through all of it. When you say talk to your kids about a baseline, do you have suggestions like at different age levels? Like obviously, I would think when you've got a 14 or 15-year-old, you can talk to them a lot more as an adult. But when you've got a 6, 7, or 8-year-old, that seriously, I have seen kids on their phone or their
Yep.
tablet or whatever they have, like they come home from school or they come home from grandma's and all they do is sit on the screen for like, I don't know, hours on end.
Yeah.
How would you suggest talking to kids at
Well,
different
I'm
ages?
trying to find in our course here because I really
Uh-huh.
want to show you this, and maybe we can link it like
Okay.
in the show
Yeah,
notes too
definitely.
to the graphic because we have it on a bookmark too, and this is a really great way. My goodness, I'm trying to find our thing on dopamine. So I want to show you this graphic because it's just such a great visual that helps any age understand. And I've been to a lot
Okay.
of conferences and I stand at the table and talk to families and I've explained it to a 5-year-old, I've explained it to a 15-year-old.
Okay.
So here, yeah, we have a whole section on dopamine in our first chapter. And so here it is. And I know it might be turned around for you all. But see how it says
Okay.
what goes up must come down. Okay. So this is the
Uh,
red, the green. Um, and so this is a great way to tell them, I'm sorry, here is the actual I'm looking for. Okay, so if you can see that, you can
yes.
see that this is kind of how you explain, look, we want to stay here. Music, friendships, nature. When we live up here, this is not good. We want to stay here. So most kids can understand that.
Okay.
I will say to keep your eyes and ears out because in the coming months, we are almost have completed our preschool kids version of our curriculum and it explains it in a way that kids can understand. It's great.
That's
Yeah,
exciting.
that's a little
Uh,
preview for you because it's not released yet.
I know you've given some, well, first of all, thank you for the dopamine. I have heard that, and there are businesses built around this. Obviously, social media, they know what they're doing because they want to keep you on their platform. And the video games, again, and don't even get me started on pornography, but this is really true. I also like the thing you say, go out together and do something. That is like real social, like not social media, but that is building relationships. And I'm going to just tell you, and I know you've got older kids, you want to have a relationship with them when they leave. And if you haven't built relationships spending time with them, then they're going to go off and be on video games and not come home or have kids on like your grandkids will be on video games. You have to be intentional right now to build those relationships and those have those social interactions.
And it's really practice. Think of it as practice. We have to give them opportunities to practice the social skills, to practice the cues, talking to an adult, talking to a fellow peer. If we do not give them those opportunities to practice, those pathways in their brain will never be built. And instead, their brain will get used to isolating themselves, only speaking through text, only speaking through, which is just the easiest way. And our brain is always going to pick the easiest way. That's normal.
Yeah.
That's especially for our kids. They're always going to pick what we call low effort, high reward. So however they can
Mhm.
get the highest amount of dopamine with the lowest amount of effort, that's what their brain's going to want. So if they've been trained on an iPad since they were toddlers, that's all they're going to want, and then we've got, I mean, I could go on and on, but that's why we have experts call it acquired ADHD, which is basically symptoms of ADHD that go away when you do an electronic fast. Because if you think
Wow.
about it, that's what an ADHD brain is very overstimulated, right? And now more and more kids and teenagers and older are getting diagnosed with this all of a sudden out of nowhere. And it used to only be diagnosed around age 5 or 6, like true cases, and still is. But now all of a sudden, kids that were never diagnosed then, all of a sudden are teenagers being diagnosed with it. And you're like, what's going on? Well, a lot of parents then will do like our 30-day fast or 30-day detox and find out that, oh my gosh, most of these symptoms went away. It's great. Well, that's because the brain went back to that baseline of dopamine. It's not so overstimulated.
I love that 30-day detox because our church does a corporate fast in January, and it depends from year to year, 2 or 3 weeks. But they always ask you to fast something from food and something from technology.
Oh, wow.
And there was, I think after, this was several years ago, but after the first or second week, some mom went up and said, I just finished, in 3 days, I haven't been on social media, and I read an entire novel. And I'm like,
Wow. Yeah.
you don't realize the amount of time, that's a lot to read a whole novel just because she got herself off of whatever social media she had been on. So anyway, I love that idea. Well, I always feel better too to get off of it. Now, I will put
Absolutely.
this caveat, like for me personally, I use some of these tools in my business because I interact with people.
Yeah.
And unfortunately, that's how they interact. I mean, they answer my questions. We get set up things like this. So, when I go on my technology, it's not that I go off for my business because I do have things to grow my business, but I'm not using it personally. I'm not getting on Facebook or Instagram or any of those things and scrolling, or even on the TV. I try to find other things to do during that time. So
Yeah.
anyway, okay, so I know y'all got some solutions. You've given some great tips. Is there anything else that you'd like to share about that?
No, I'm good to go on with some solutions to give some
Yeah,
parents some good what to do next type things if you
yes,
if you
let's
think,
do that.
yeah. So basically what I really want to encourage everybody is if your gut is saying something is not right, okay? If you're asking yourself, why did I give this device to my child? If you find that your family attachment is detaching, all of these are really big signs to kind of step back and say, okay, how do we need to rethink screens? We talk a lot about rethinking screens and reclaiming our kids back. So sometimes you just need to step back and go, I need to rethink this. And so I first want to encourage parents that no matter where you're at on this journey, whether you've never given a screen or you're in the thick of your child being addicted to video games and you don't know what to do, you can change anything at any time. Like you can start today or tomorrow and say, we're not looking back, we're going to do something different. And it's up to you to do that and to rescue your kids if you need to. So one of the big ways we talk about doing this is number one, you need to remove the the problem, right? You need to remove the addictive thing. Now, the older your child is, the harder this is to do. And we walk you through this in our curriculum and in our 30-day detox. Because I always tell people, especially in my workshops, please do not go home and rip everything out of your child's hand. It's not going to go well for you. You want to be prepared. You want to educate yourself first, get on the same page with your spouse, and really have some knowledge behind why we're going to do this as a family. So when we remove the toxic screens, the social media, the video games, even the pornography, we're gonna add that in there. Um, we're gonna replace it with other things. So this is what I personally did. Is I went to my kids, my husband and I went to my kids and I said, listen, I know you don't understand this. I'm so sorry that we gave this to you and I'm learning this is actually hurting you. So what we're gonna do as a family is for 30 days, we're gonna do this awesome experiment and we're gonna see how we feel. Okay, we're gonna do this challenge together as a family. So you really set it up as a positive thing. This isn't because they're bad or they've, disobeyed and we're taking this away. It's not framed like that. It's framed like you're taking the responsibility and saying, hey, let's do this as a family. Mom and dad are gonna be intentional about our phone use. You guys don't get any phone use, for 30 days, no video games, but instead we're going to go on this family trip, or we're going to play Monopoly every night, or we're going to whatever it is that you need to do to fill their time. And then really going with, if you play sports at all, or your kids play sports at all, and I'm not sporty, but my kids do play some sports. Melanie, our founder, likes to use the coach analogy, and this is great. Think of yourself as your child's coach. And what does a good coach do? The good coach knows when their team is not winning, when their players are not winning, and they change the play, whether their players like it or not, right? Or they make them run extra laps or whatever it is, because they know what's best for the player and for the team. And you as a parent know what's best for your team. And sometimes you've just got to put that coach hat on, take off the emotional parent hat that we all have. We're all been there, especially moms, the mom guilt, and just know that you're looking at their future. And so you're going to choose your hard. You're either going to choose the hard now, of maybe taking it back or delaying it even longer, or you're going to choose that hard to come later. It's going to come one way or another. So really putting on that coach hat and leading like a coach, focusing on life skills, hobbies, activities. Melanie made an entire list of life skills that her twins needed to learn before they could ever get a phone. And I don't remember how old they were, but her son said, this is going to take me till I'm 18. She said, exactly. I'm talking like how to call and make it a haircut appointment to,
Yeah.
how to cook a roast. I mean, whatever it is, how to do your laundry, like make that bucket list and have fun with it. This is a fun time in your child's life. And so remember, it's not just about restricting the screens. That's not what we're telling you to do. Don't just restrict just to restrict, but replace them. Replace them with amazing things that are going to build amazing pathways in your child's brain. They're going to foster connection with you and your kids and your family, because family attachment is the number one important developmental task that needs to happen, is that attachment to family. So that's kind of what you do. As far as, I don't know if you want me to offer our resources or kind of
Yes,
what we have.
yes.
We have lots of free resources for families. You can go to screenstrong.org and kind of get plugged in there. We have an online forum for parents called Connect that you can get to through screenstrong.org. It's free to sign up. We do have a subscription level as well. But in that forum are other like-minded parents that maybe feel alone in this, and they don't want to be on social media to connect with us, because of course we're on social media, because that is how you connect with people and people find us. But we created this forum for those parents that are living screen strong that don't want to do that. And so that's a great place to ask questions, to get support from our ambassadors, that type of thing. We also have a podcast called Screen Strong Families. This will become your best friend as you're on this journey. We come out with about an episode every single week. We have experts, we have parents, we have teenagers and kids on there, a whole gamut of people. So you can find something that, you can share with your family. Some of them you can listen to as a family. That'll be a huge resource and encouragement to you. And of course, we have our curriculum and our workshops that we present to communities. But our curriculum is both for parents and students. I kind of gave you a little preview of this earlier, but it's a full 300-page textbook, which is a great curriculum for homeschool. We've sold this a lot at the homeschool conferences, and people are raving about it. So it's something you can do as a family together about ages 10 and up for now, until that younger kids book comes out.
That's exciting. Wow, you've got a lot. Wherever y'all are listening to this, right below, we'll have a list of these links. So all you have to do is click on the link right below the video so we can connect you to Screen Strong. They have so much there. And I love that idea too of replaced. I mean, it's sort of the same thing. Replace social media with real social, I mean, like interactive skills. You replace it, and to be positive and not think of this as a punishment for them, to rethink. I'll be honest, just going through this interview, my kids may not like it. I'm sending this interview whenever we get it all processed to my girls, and we'll see. They'll be going, "Oh, great, mom just mentioned us at the end of the video." But, I mean, I don't see them like addicted. My kids, my grandkids aren't, but we all have to get some balance. And I love the detox idea as
And
well.
sometimes you don't know till you know. So I always tell parents, take a deep breath, just know that this is a lot of information, and sometimes it's very overwhelming, and it's okay to acknowledge that, and just take it one step at a time.
Yeah.
Start pulling back. I was starting to say earlier, the younger your kids are, the easier it is to do this and just kind of pull the plug and be like, yeah, I can do this anymore. They very quickly forget. Now, as you get into those puberty years, like, 13, 14, 15 and up, it gets a lot harder to do. And you're going to have to be a lot more intentional replacing their time with sports and hobbies and time spent with you and all that. With little kids, you might need to entertain them the first couple days to get their brain back to that baseline. But after that, oh my gosh, the stories we get are so cool. It's so fun to hear, oh my gosh, they're out jumping on the trampoline again, or oh my gosh, they're out doing this. I'm amazed. And we're like, yes, this is what happens. You think it's going to be hard, but it actually makes your life so much easier when you don't have conflict around screen time, because you don't have screen time. So it's great.
I love that. So,
Yeah.
Mandee, thank you so much for doing this today. I really appreciate it. This has been a wealth of information. Again, we'll have the links right below here. Y'all can click and go see what you need. Is there anything that you'd like to just leave us in closing?
Just, as an encouragement, you are the parent. This is the big encouragement. You are the parent. And as daunting as it feels, I encourage you to be brave and make these changes if you feel like you need to rethink the screens. Find some other parents and make a group together and kind of make that pact together. Hey, let's raise our kids without this stuff, and host those things together where our kids can play and have fun, and you can be social with somebody too. We all need a little bit more of that. So just know that you're not alone. You're not alone. There's a lot of us that have already been there. There's a lot of people that are right where you are right now, and we're all here for you, and Screen Strong has your back.
Sounds good. Well, Mandee, thank you so much. I appreciate you carving some time out of your day today to be with us.
Yeah, thank
All
you.
right. Yes, and I am Kerry Beck with Life Skills Leadership Summit. We'll talk to you next time.